Hi there, and welcome to day 26 of the Inktober Tangles challenge. My name's Martha, and I'm so happy you're here to draw along with me. Today we're going to explore the Owlpeek tangle in two styles, as usual. I'll start simple and then move on to something quite a bit more elaborate. So let's jump into that simple tile first. I'm beginning with a bijou tile and a Pigma Micron pin, size 01 and color black. And I'm beginning with a very tall and narrow X in the middle of the tile. I'm adding two horizontal lines at the top and the bottom, and then adding a couple of spiral lines. So the spiral on the left, I'm spiraling down, and the spiral on the right, I'm spiraling up. I'm next going to draw several diagonal lines. So from the left spiral up to the top and then down to the bottom. And then on the right side, connecting the spiral to the top and bottom of the X. And then inside of those triangles, drawing a few diagonal lines radiating out from that center point. So the top triangle and then the bottom triangle. And then for shading, I'm just coming in here with the graphite pencil and adding a little bit where the X crosses in that center point, and then a little bit on the the inside of that hexagon. So those diagonal lines. And how simple was that? So quick and easy. A lovely little tangle. So Inktober Tangles 2025 and day 26, and the tangle is Owlpeek. To begin the more elaborate version of this tangle, I've switched over to a Renaissance tile, and I'm using a pencil to add 4 dots and then connect those dots with a line to create a border. And then at the top and the bottom, I'm adding 2 guidelines on each side and then turning it and connecting those lines. So I tried to divide that space into 3 equal areas. I'm going to do the same thing going across those lines or in the opposite direction so that I have 9 spaces. I'm using a Pigma Micron black pen in a size 08, and I'm starting smack dab in the middle with that tall, narrow X, which is connected with 2 lines, so it's very much like an hourglass. I'm going to do the same thing right below it, and then the same thing above it. So using the lines from the previous X or hourglass to connect the next one. So 3 on top of each other. And then start wherever you would like. I'm starting at the top, and I am spiraling on the left side, and I'm spiraling down. I'm coming right from that center point of the X, and I'm also adding a little bit of a little orb in the middle of those. I've now turned my tile, and I'm going to spiral the opposite direction on the other side. There's something about this tangle that reminds me of the candelabra in the movie Beauty and the Beast, the cartoon version from like the 90s. That's what I always see when I start this tangle. I'm now going in and adding those diagonal lines, which is starting to give shape to a hexagon here. These little owl faces are little hexagons. Also notice how these tangles fit nicely in these little boxes. So 1, 2, 3 on top of each other. I've drawn from the top of the box to the bottom and to the left and to the right. But now it's going to get a little tricky. So I'm drawing out the bottom of this hourglass, and I'm drawing it out right where those spirals are. I've drawn 3, and I'm now going to connect that X between them. So these are not going to fit into that pencil grid that we first laid out on the paper. And that's okay. That was kind of the effect that I was going for. I didn't want them to be directly um, horizontal and side by side. I wanted them to kind of shift a little bit. And so I'm adding the spirals that are facing down or spiraling down. And then, of course, at the top and the bottom, I'm just drawing the portion that I can see from inside of that border. I'm going to go ahead and turn the tile and just take your time here. And it's easy to get a little distracted by the other spirals, but find those spirals that you just drew and draw them facing the opposite direction. And now, of course, we're going to add a few diagonals here to complete that little hexagon. And now flipping the tile or rotating the tile, I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. So starting out with the horizontal lines, and they are extending from the spirals, and then connecting them with an X to form these hourglass figures. So 2 in the middle, and then at the top, half of one, and at the bottom, another half of one. I'm going to speed up this next portion just a little bit for time's sake, and then I will walk you through the steps of the last sections. And then for the space on the left and right that's left, um, just adding a few horizontal lines, so 4, and then connecting those, so you should have 3 hourglass shapes, just like you did in the middle of this tile, that first set. And when I was kind of trying to figure out how I wanted to do this tangle, I originally had put them all side by side, all kind of like in a nice little row lining up. But I really wanted to see if I could figure out how to stagger them. So it took a little engineering, but it turned out really cool. And it very much reminds me of like a wrought iron fence. And I'm actually going to show you the next kind of little enhancers to help kind of bring out that idea of a heavy wrought iron fence. The next step in the tangle is to add several lines inside each of the triangles. So I usually add 4 or 5. I played around with different colors with this, but ended up kind of liking all of it being black. So fill in all your triangles and then meet me when you're ready for the next step. So to give, the feel of a heavy, strong wrought iron fence, I felt like there needed to be a little bit more weight on a part of this tangle. So what I'm doing here is coming in and kind of adding a little bit more ink to the inside edge of these spirals. And then inside of this kind of hexagon, um, I'm auraing a little triangle in two of the spaces and then filling those in with solid ink. And then the other two spaces in the hexagon, mimicking those triangles, even though the spiral doesn't allow it to be, a closed off triangular shape. All right, so aura inside each of those with 4 triangles and fill in with black ink. And then don't forget those edges. You might see just a little hint of one of those triangles. Definitely want to add a little ink there. For shading, I'm adding graphite to this kind of hourglass figures, those original X's, just where all of those lines meet. Just adding a little bit of some shading. To add a little bit more flair to this tangle, I'm coming in with a white Jelly Roll pen and adding some orbs to all of the triangles. So just kind of squishing a couple in and inside of each of those triangular shapes. And then also repeating that orb there on those little black orbs at the center of the spirals. For a little bit more dimension, decided to add a little bit of this white charcoal here. So a little bit of a highlight to kind of balance out the shadows. And just coming in there inside of those spirals and just adding a little bit of a curved white stroke with that charcoal pencil. Also adding a little bit of white where those hourglass figures connect with those horizontal lines. So really playing between those shadow areas with these areas of lightness with this white charcoal. I absolutely love this tangle. I remember when I first saw the list, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna dig that one. But yeah, I'm in love. In love. So day 26, Owlpeek, and goodness, 5 more days, y'all. That is it. But just dropping a little Easter egg here. I have something planned for the month of November. So stay tuned. And thank you again for watching, for subscribing, for drawing along. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a good one.